Let's set the scene. It's the year 819 AD, Tang Dynasty China. The whole empire is buzzing because a sacred relic is coming to the capital. But one man, a very senior official, is about to send a letter to the emperor. A letter so bold, so dangerous, it could very well get him killed.
And that's really the big question here, isn't it? What on earth could be so threatening about a single piece of bone that a respected scholar would be willing to risk his life to stop it? Well, the answer gets into a massive cultural clash that was shaking the entire empire.
So, what's the deal with this bone? Turns out the emperor has ordered a finger bone believed to be from the Buddha himself to be brought into the imperial palace. The plan is to have this huge, grand ceremony to honor it. A big moment of national faith and celebration.
But not everybody is ready to party. For a scholar named Han Yu, a hardcore Confucian, this isn't just some ceremony. He sees this as a fundamental threat to the very soul of Chinese civilization. And he feels like he must speak out no matter what it costs him.
So Han Yu sits down and writes this formal argument, this memorial, to the emperor. And he starts with a shocking, direct attack. He doesn't just question the ceremony, he goes after the entire religion behind it.
And there it is. With that one line, he lays out his whole argument. He's framing Buddhism not as some universal truth, but as a foreign import, a barbarian thing that simply doesn't belong in the sophisticated, civilized world of Tang China.
And he really breaks it down. He says, look, the Buddha wasn't Chinese. He spoke a different language, he wore different clothes. But, and this is the crucial part for Han Yu, his teachings didn't line up with the core Confucian values that held their society together. Things like the duty between a ruler and his subject, or the love between a father and son. To Han Yu, this wasn't just a difference of opinion, it was fundamentally wrong.
Okay, so after calling Buddhism a foreign influence, Han Yu's next move is to use Chinese history as a weapon. He basically presents the emperor with this narrative that says, China was amazing before Buddhism and it's been going downhill ever since.
He points way back to this kind of mythical golden age with these legendary sage kings who ruled for incredibly long, peaceful reigns. He lists them off: Huangdi, Emperor Yao, King Wen. These guys were the gold standard of good government. And, Han Yu points out, they did it all without any help from Buddhism.
The picture he's painting couldn't be clearer. Before Buddhism, you had peace, prosperity, long, stable rule. After Buddhism arrived, well, Han Yu argues it brought nothing but chaos, short-lived dynasties, and a watering down of what it meant to be truly Chinese. It's a really powerful argument, even if it is a pretty selective version of history.
Yet to really hammer the point home, Han Yu zooms in on a single, cautionary tale from more recent history. He brings up the case of Emperor Wu of the Liang dynasty, who was on the throne for 48 years.
And this emperor wasn't just some casual follower. He was all in. We're talking total devotion. He went vegetarian, and not once, but 3 times he literally gave himself to Buddhist temples as a servant. His own court had to pay a fortune to ransom him back each time. I mean, if being pious was supposed to bring good luck, this guy should have been the luckiest emperor ever.
But that's not what happened. In a really brutal twist, the emperor was overthrown in a rebellion and ended up starving to death under house arrest. For Han Yu, the message was crystal clear. Worshipping this foreign deity didn't bring blessings, it brought total disaster. History had proved him right.
So now Han Yu switches gears. He moves from the past to the present danger, and he addresses his own emperor with what is, you have to admit, a pretty clever rhetorical trick.
He basically says, Your Majesty, I know you're way too smart to actually believe in this stuff. You're just putting on a show for the common people, right? Giving them something to celebrate now that the harvest is good. It's a genius way to criticize the emperor while pretending to praise his intelligence.
And here's the turn. Han Yu then asks, okay, but what happens next? If you, the emperor, treat this like it's a real holy event, the common folk, who he calls foolish and ignorant, they're not going to see it as just a show. They're going to believe it's real. And the fallout from that, he warns, is going to be a complete disaster.
He predicts this wave of absolute mass hysteria. He says people will start burning their heads and fingers as religious offerings. They'll drop their tools, abandon their farms, and leave their homes just to follow this bone around. The whole social order, he says, is going to fall apart as people get swept up in this frenzy and give away all their money.
So for Han Yu, the real damage isn't just about the economy, it's about culture, it's about dignity. He says this whole affair will corrupt their traditions and make the great Tang Empire look ridiculous, a laughingstock to the rest of the world.
The emperor's little show will become the whole nation's shame.
All right, now we get to the end of the memorial. And this is the part where Han Yu drops all the cleverness, all the flattery, and just goes for it. He makes his final, absolutely audacious demands.
He describes this holy, sacred relic with pure disgust. He calls it a rotten, withered, and filthy thing. I mean, the language is just dripping with contempt. He asks how something so disgusting could ever be allowed inside the clean, sacred halls of the palace. And his proposed solution is even more shocking. He doesn't just say, hey, send the bone back. No, he calls for its complete and total destruction. He tells the emperor to give it to the officials to be thrown into water and fire, to wipe its existence off the face of the earth forever. You just don't say that to an emperor about something he considers holy. And then comes the final line. The mic drop. Han Yu knows he's crossed every line. He knows execution is on the table. So he ends with the ultimate challenge. He says, look, if this Buddha is real, if he has any power at all, let him strike me down. Let all the bad luck, all the misfortune fall on my head alone. He is literally daring a god to smite him, betting his own life that he's right.
Well, as you can imagine, the emperor was furious, absolutely enraged. He wanted Han Yu executed on the spot, but other officials in the court begged for his life, and in the end, the sentence was reduced. Han Yu wasn't killed. Instead, he was stripped of his position and banished to a remote, malaria-ridden outpost in the far south, which, for a man his age, was pretty much a death sentence anyway.
And that kind of leaves us with this huge question, one that goes way beyond 9th century China. Han Yu fought with everything he had to protect what he saw as the pure, original soul of his culture from a new and powerful belief system. And his dangerous argument really makes you think. What actually holds a culture together? Is it sticking to your oldest traditions no matter what? Or is it the ability to change, to absorb new ideas, and to evolve?